So, you know, I speak to Anki how that works, how you get thousands of people in the ground for 11 o'clock in the morning. Why can't we be like that? Why can't we talk to each other with comfort about their culture and why, you know, for example, how we can benefit from our cultures? It's like Jim with the food. Jim loves food. He loves talking about the food from different areas. Why can't we, you know, it does, but it makes your taste buds better, you know, and things like that. Why can't we? All right, Jim needs to understand that you can get probably the best food is get it in that country specifically, but, you know, that's another part of it. But why can't we embrace that? Why do we have to say, oh, you're from the States, you must do this? No, you know what?
That's why I do what I do with USUC, in all honesty. And it's about building bridges over the Atlantic, you know. It's about creating relationships with people that live in a completely different universe. We may speak the same language, but it's not spoken in the same way. Absolutely, Ben. I agree.
It is. Good afternoon, Mr. Nick. How are
not
we?
So fast. Not so fast, my lovey-dovey friend from Great Britain. Okay.
He's got to go. He's already said he knew he could sense you were coming.
There's two of us today.
We have two people. One is great and one is from Britain.
Well, we have two people from Great Britain now?
Yes. Alex is also from London.
It's 2-on-1, Nick.
Oh, no. Not so fast, my
Britain
overlords.
Hey, Nick, not only do we have 2-on-1, but as I was telling them when I jumped on the conversation, we had a gentleman on the online dinner party yesterday from originally from Watts, but he's now living in Las Vegas and is on his way to move to New Jersey. But he's actually arguing that we join the Commonwealth. So there's even folks here in America that are arguing that we join the Commonwealth. So definitely we've got all kinds of folks that are trying to corrupt your viewpoint, Nick. So I can tell you that. But he actually said that.
Oh, Lord, are you kidding me? Going back to Great Britain, I can't even handle that. I got to go. I can't stay on that anymore. I'm leaving.
Hey, Jeff, you got your hand up.
We chased Nick away. That's a first. Hey, Julian, let's hear what you got to say, because Julian and Jeff's got some comment, but Julian was first.
Oh, yeah. So just before we move on, so my response to the previous point. So in terms of the protesting in sports, I think that just like what Jim was describing, it's a good strategy because worst case scenario, it doesn't really hurt anyone. It's almost the equivalent of taking a kid's toy away to not let them watch their favorite sport. So whether or not, you know, you agree with the ideas behind it, at least we can all agree that it's not really hurting anyone, to say the least. So, you know, it's not the worst way that someone can get their idea across. And then in terms of how the, I guess you could say, structure of society is being impacted by new presences and how this could impact the voting demographics. This goes back to what I was describing before in terms of just our own biological progression, our conception of the explorative nature versus the stabilized nature, and how these two things actually, they find balance in human personality, and some people will be more on either side and other people will be more on the others, and that's how we ultimately balance each other. And then we're having this new kind of revolution which is coming in, like Bill was describing, after, you know, the Industrial Revolution and things like this. Since we have the information age, we're moving into the biological age, we basically have to begin taking account of how this changes the shape of, I guess you could say, the graph theory that constitutes the electoral system, because now, you know, there are echo chambers, and it's easy for an ideology to just explode in an echo chamber and then influence many people's votes.
Wow.
Appreciate you. Jeff, did you have something you wanted to add to us?
This just in from the NBA agreed to resume play, and the Lakers and the Clippers resume play this weekend, and they're going to be sure that their show and their place and their position as stewards of information, especially with the majority of NBA players being black. I see hockey is still out there, and hockey majority is white, and it really doesn't matter. But my point is that as superstars and as leaders, as not millionaires but billionaires, but these people that are in control of our fun, of bringing our children to a game before we got games shut down, they need Not they can or they will or they won't. They need to use their position in the media to be able to speak up and to speak up clearly and have one voice that doesn't waver or blame one side or the other. We have to act like Gandhi. We have to remember that right now, Oprah, the Dalai Lama, and Deepak are silent in the mainstream public. They're doing their work behind the scenes, but you haven't seen them. So I'm very disappointed in the Dalai and in Deepak and in Oprah for their ability to bring the spiritual aspect to what we're dealing with right now and to say that enough is enough. And that's what the players have said. The players have said enough is enough. And so just right now on my TV, I pointed my laptop over to the TV a few seconds ago. The sports television has said on CBS that they're resuming play, that they decided, not that they were wrong, they just, you know, the shock is important. That's what that's what either extreme do. They try to shock you, and it's not a conspiracy that there's implants, you know, put in to break windows and to make, you know, peaceful, you know, protests look bad. But who's to know all that stuff? It's just we have to get back to the golden rule and to a Gandhi-like mentality of cleaning things up. Enough is enough is what LeBron was saying. And so it makes me happy because I live alone and sports are very entertaining to me and take time up. Instead of smoking a cigarette, which I know killed my friend a few months ago, who was a brilliant soul, I watch sports.
Appreciate that, and that was a great comment that you made and everything. And by the way, I just wanted to let folks know, in full disclosure and everything, I actually went to school with Doc Rivers. We were at Marquette together. His friend, his roommate and my roommate were best friends. So I'm definitely a big time fan of Doc Rivers. We've actually lost touch in terms of keeping in touch with each other, but I do still keep in touch to some degree with Ruben Anthony, his roommate, and follow his career. Was glad when he won the Celtics role and everything. So was definitely glad to see him in that role and glad to see him having a successful NBA career. But I do know he's been passionate all his life about being involved in issues around justice and things of that nature. What a lot of folks don't remember is that during the time that we were in school, there was another police violence case. It was the Ernest Lacey case, and he doesn't allude to that. He does talk about his dad being a police officer and things of that nature. But during that time that we were in school, that incident happened in the early 80s. And I remember a lot of protests being involved, Howard Fuller being involved in that, who is one of my mentors and things of that nature. So this is an issue that has been around for a while, but I would like folks to hear what Doc said and the comments that he made. So that's what I'm here to play right now.
Against Luka, tonight you guys did a bit of traveling on the sidelines and above the arc. Wanted to ask what went into that decision and how you thought that went.
I thought it went well. I mean, we it's just overall the intensity defensively was so much more attentive. You know, through the series, like we've made just a lot of game plan mistakes with our switching, with our trapping. We actually did trap them in games previous. It was just so poor. It was hard to notice. I thought Rex and Ty, Luke, both of them just did a terrific job just game planning and mixing it up. We didn't just have one coverage, which I thought was important. You know, I just thought we played harder and we played right and we played with a great spirit.
Next is Hey, Doc. Paul just said in the post-game interview that he was in a pretty dark place these last 3 games and having trouble adjusting to the environment of no fans in the game. I was wondering, did you notice that? Did you see any of that? And also, you said you would comment about the Jacob Blake situation, how you truly felt about it after the game.
Yeah, you know, this is not a normal environment. Okay, it just isn't. But it's good. Like, the NBA has done a terrific job. But Lou made a great point. Like, you know, you lose a lot of games, and the game the other night was tough. Usually you go home to your family. You go home. Here you go back to your rooms, and you're with each other, and then you actually see the other teams. And it's just a strange thing, man. I tell you, it's just different. And I thought our guys are great, though. Like, you know, PG and I sat in my room after the game, and we just had a long talk. Not all about basketball, really. And, you know, several players did it. Guys are knocking on his door. You know, this team's, you know, we're growing still. You can see it. We've not had the normal time together like most teams. And so, like, things like that, they happen. And I thought our guys are just proud of all the players. As far as the other situation, it's just so sad. You know, what stands out to me is just watching the Republican convention, and they're spewing this fear, right? Like, all you hear Donald Trump and all of them talking about fear. We're the ones getting killed. We're the ones getting shot. We're the ones that we're denied to live in certain communities. We've been hung, we've been shot, and all you do is keep hearing about fear. It's amazing to me why we keep loving this country, and this country does not love us back. And it's really so sad.
Oops, hold on.
Well, I think there you have it. I mean, in a way, I mean, that just sums it up. The Trump campaign about fear and tribalism and a return to the dark ages versus an attempt at trying to solve the problem and moving forward. Anybody else have thoughts?
I think I'm not sure about US, but in India, it looks like that Trump is having an upper hand as compared to the other side of the story. But I think what we see on the US mainstream media is more about fear, and he's not talking about the mainstream points. He just, playing it around with different discussions, which is not leading to the important discussions of unemployment and COVID and all those crises which the US is suffering from right now. And that's what happening on Fox News right now. I mean, they're discussing that why Trump didn't discuss about the unemployment and other issues on the RNC a couple of days back. So that's the story from India, but I'm not sure what's happening in US.
Yeah, like I said, I just thank you, Bill, for mentioning that and everything. But like I said, every time I hear that quote from Doc, and there's more of it that we could have played and everything, but it just moves me every time. And like I said, I remember Doc as a young man. I was a teenager at the same time that he was a teenager. So I've seen his growth, just like I've grown as a man as well. I've seen his growth as an individual. So like I said, that was just a very powerful statement that he made. And I'm just proud of him as a individual. Like I said, not just because we are fellow alumni of Marquette, but definitely I'm glad that he's not afraid to express and stand up for things that he's compassionate about. We saw that even when Steve Ballmer came in as the CEO of the Clippers. So it's something that is part of his nature and part of his given, and just part of the way he is as a person. That's the way I feel about Doc. And like I said, at some point I'm gonna reach out to him, and hopefully we'll have some more direct contact. But I've always been an admirer of Doc Rivers, and I thought that he did a powerful job of sharing his statements.
Alex?
And I think Alex needs to say something. Alex?
Yeah, okay. So I just want to add the fact that, look, I'm not a religious guy, not at all. I have this thing that I developed by myself. It's a metaphorical sense of karma, okay? I believe that if you are a guy that acts like a snake, you'll always be remembered as a snake. Right? If you're something brave like an eagle, if you help people and you know someone strong or something strong, you'll always be remembered as something strong. Now, whether it comes to hard right or hard left, your beliefs on human beings and where they stand in your belief system, whether you're Marvel or whether you're DC, whether you're Oasis or Blur, or whether you're the Beatles or the Rolling Stones, just be nice. Just be decent. Remember that whatever color skin we've got, whatever religion we believe in, or whatever country we come from, we're all human beings. And this has been my point throughout the whole thing. You know, very, very cleverly, I'm talking about Marvel and DC. But what I really mean is be nice. Doesn't matter what you watch. It doesn't matter what you believe in or who you vote for. Be nice. That's it.
Alex, you bring up a very valid point. I know we're going to go into the Gamers Den and all of that, but that point that you make is one, and I brought it up on this show before. I brought it up a number of times, whether it's been the shows that I do or whether it's this roundtable or whatever. But when it comes to the basic views of religion, the basic views of like morality tales, which is also kind of what cartoons are, and the comic books and everything, the basic rule is the same across the line. It is to be nice. It's to basically love your neighbor. It's a couple of very basic rules that are the basic rules of humanity. And I do wish, like you, Alex, that we would see more of that happening in society, because the basic rules that is across the board. I don't care what your religious beliefs are. I don't care what your orientations are. I don't care what things around life that you are about. The basic rules of society are the same across the board. And that is one of those things that I am a big fan of, the golden rule. And I think that it's one that exists in all of our ways of describing ourselves and all our ways of trying to govern our life. Unfortunately, there's a lot of folks that don't like to practice that, and I wish that more of them would. I mean, you're going to have some evil folks in the world, and they're not going to do whatever they're going to do in the way of righteousness. But I think that most of us are about righteousness and about trying to be equal and fair. So that's what I'm going to say about that. But I thoroughly agree with you, Alex, that it's the basic rule is the same. So I think that it's almost time for the Gamers Den. And if there's like a whole panel of folks and everything, I'll do a quick introduction when Ankit brings that up, and we'll get into some discussion about games, because you were talking about Marvel versus DC, and Marvel versus DC is also something that gamers talk about. So I don't know where Jacoby's at, but I'm sure he's going to pull up at some point or another. But until he gets here, I'm going to bring up who we've got for the Gamers Den.
So Mark, before we end up, I think Alex needs to leave. Thank you, Alex. Thanks for joining us today, and amazing conversation. And we would love to host you again. And let's get started.
Yeah, I'd love to join you guys again. You've been great chatting to you guys. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you, Alex.
Nice to meet you guys. See you, gents.
Yeah, show Alex. Weed Wednesdays.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Just get in touch, everybody. Get in touch. My name's here. Just drop me a line. Okay, Alex Whiteley. Find me on Facebook. Drop me a message. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Cheers.
And I think it's time for Gamers Den. Before we start, I have to play an intro. So that's Gamers first, and then I would like to invite Jim Mays back on the show, and then we have Jatovi joining us. Good afternoon, everyone. How are you doing?
How's everybody doing today?
Everybody's doing good.
How are you?
I think we got an engaging conversation. I know I got to bring some stuff up, but first I'm going to get around to the quick panel discussions. We've got our mastermind, or one of the three masterminds of IBM TV, that being Ankit. He's part of the great leadership team that we have here. Of course, Kim and Nick, who popped into our last show, are the primary leaders, but Ankit, I consider him part of our great leadership team as well. So Ankit is coming at us all the way from India. So I definitely appreciate Ankit being on the show and sharing his knowledge with us. So in addition to Ankit, we've got some other great guests. We've also got to my other side, and I'll come around to who I am. We've got Jeff Egan. He is the master of Weed Wednesday and has freed a number of prisoners around, but he is also one that knows a little bit about the gaming industry and has some thoughts around it. And then we've got Julian. Julian definitely knows about games and the ways that games can even impact our brains and our development of thought and patterns and things of that nature. So definitely, I know that Julian is a gamer and definitely is enjoyed in that field. So glad to have Julian on with us. And then we've got Jim Eade. He is known for his Chess Without Borders. He has occasionally played some video games and things of that nature, but he is learning more about it as we're doing it on the Gamers Den. And then we've got my longtime friend from right here in Durham, Jacoby McDuffie, and he has been involved in everything from baseball commentating to, of course, being a master of the game industry with his own game company. So we are definitely glad to have Jacoby with us to share his knowledge, and he's definitely going to talk a lot about things that are going on that line. And of course, I'm Mark Lee. I've got a number of shows right here and produce a number of shows as well. And then I have used to, back in the day, play some of those simple games like Pac-Man and some of the early versions, but have not got into the newer games. I was too busy playing Words with Friends and other things that are not really games in terms of the ways that you gamers play them, because there's not a lot of the kind of actions, in my opinion. But there's the old school, and I guess I'm an old school gamer, so but still love the new games. So I'm going to turn things over to Jacoby to some degree, because I know that the last time we were here, we did not talk about a survey that he was doing or like some sort of poll that he had going on. So I don't know if he wants to comment on that, because he had done a little bit of study about that and had put out some information about the gaming industry to some of the gaming folks, or maybe it was about politics, but I do remember that he had this survey going so on. So I'd like to hear him talk about that.
So yes, I did put out a survey asking some of the gamers a little bit of information, because we had that long discussion about Tencent and TikTok being banned and everything else. So I did put out the that survey. I was actually trying to pull it up. Marky dropped that on me really fast. Straight to that one. There we go.
Welcome to live TV.
But some of it, because I asked 3 very open-ended questions because I just wanted them to talk. Basically, I just asked, what are your views of things going on today? Do you feel that games can influence your political views? As a gamer, if you had an opportunity to ask or tell someone in government anything, what would it be? So yeah, 3 very open-ended questions. Nothing heavy-handed, but yes, I got responses from everything is bad, and I cannot use that word on there. The chaos to very troubling for the first couple of answers. Some people said kind of mixed up, involving the whole COVID pandemic. I feel like things are being handled pretty well by the government, a lot of things, and it goes on a long diatribe on that. On the, do you feel games can influence your political views? For the most part, I got, I guess probably not. I guess probably not, though. I can't even vote yet. Rarely. Heck no. Yes, I think they can, if the president would say that violent games don't cause bad habits. No, not at all, unless someone holds a government role is portrayed in a game in a positive or negative way. More random ones similar to that. But the fun one was, as a gamer, if you had an opportunity to ask or tell someone in government anything, what would it be? The majority, and the vast majority of them, were stay away from video games. Where was it? There was one,
in other words.
There was one that actually was very interesting. There was one that said, where is it? There were a couple. I would ask someone to finally put a stop to the whole games cause violence debate by doing extensive tests and experiments. Actually, I thought that was interesting because that shows that a lot of people don't realize that a lot of these gaming companies do actually have the tests and experiments that they do on their games that they do release. So they do a lot of background on that. One was talking about how video games aren't evil. They are seen as something that is bad, but they can help so many people. It can help with depression, anxiety, etc. And that also is very true, because especially in this day and age, we're all looking for an escape. We're all looking for ways to take us to a different place. And that's what happens with a lot of these gamers, is that's their escape. And we get caught up in, okay, well, they're shooting people, or they're not really trying to do this or do that, and it's not positive, and it's not, well, for the most part, a lot of people, for a lot of people, it is. It does help.
You know, and I'd like to interject and just throw something in there. So the work by this really prominent social scientist named Jonathan Haidt has basically shown that human beings are what could be described as anti-fragile, where what this term basically means is that the more you pummel us, the stronger we actually get. So it's not like, you know, like a plastic where it just stays the same and it's durable. To be anti-fragile is actually a case where the thing gets stronger. And according to the science, it seems that we as people actually become better whenever we're exposed to challenges. And there have been, you know, political, I guess, movements to reduce the numbers of those challenges. A lot of the time it's been out of fear. And many people say that video games are one of the last few bastions where you can just be dropped into a completely competitive environment, and you can just, you know, basically be subjected to what some could consider as rigorous training exercises, or at least to, you know, a bit of resistance, a bit of conflict that will allow you to, you know, get your footing and become a more well-rounded individual. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's true. It is true, because it's the same thing. Sports themselves can make you a well-rounded individual. Like you were saying, any challenge, chess, checkers, even the competition to improve your mind is all it boils down to. And we just have to think of it in a different light than it's just a waste of time staring at a screen. So yes, I mean, games themselves, anything you can get wrapped up in, it definitely improves you as an individual. Well, you know, for not sans the extreme examples of, you know,
right,
addicted to something, but yes, getting caught up in something that can improve your imagination, reading books,
and your resiliency.
Yeah. So yes, it can definitely help improve you and round you out and make you a well-rounded person. So
I understand we're going to try something unique today. I understand we're actually going to try to play a game or a video game online. So I'm looking forward to this, and Toby's going to be kind of the mastermind of this. I know that we had our trivia version, so we've tried one game before with the online dinner party mystery guest, and I revealed the mystery guest yesterday. So we had our trivia game, and that went well, I think, even though not as much engagement. I've got to find a way through Twitch or some other sources to get the trivia community involved. But we've had at least one attempt at a game, and actually we did have some folks going on, and now we're going to see what Jacoby pulls off.
Well, right now, just got a few technical difficulties trying to make sure that the screen, the sharing of the screen works. So right now,
the problem is that if you are sharing from Twitch, you have to enable the cam and mic, because that is causing a problem, or else you can try from browser.
Oh, well, that's what I was doing, was sharing it from the browser. Camera or mic.
If you right click the browser on the top of it, there is an option called enable your cam and mic. Because that's what it is. I mean, it says device not connected. I can see it backstage, but it's not working. On the other hand, I would like to know that who is popular in the gaming industry. A Trump is more popular, or a Biden is more popular? Because I think I've seen a lot of games on Trump, but I haven't seen one on Biden.
Well, in terms
He's not president yet.
Yeah. So you mean in terms of being in a game, or, you know, talking about in the gaming industry?
As a character, Trump is, easily available on all the gaming platforms as compared to the other counterparts.
So
I guess if I'm hearing you correctly, Ankit is saying that he's seeing some characters in various video games that have Trump as a character, and there's no Biden character. So he wanted to know about that.
So
and that's a self-promotion basically. That's also part of promotion election campaigns nowadays, because if you want to target the young media and the young person who play a lot of games, and then if you have a character as the president, that definitely adds a value to it.
So the reason that is,
that's a good point.
The reason that is he has always been in entertainment. He has always been seen as a clown. So putting a clown in the game isn't out of the ordinary. He's been in pop culture forever, but he's again always been seen as a clown and this joke. So he's in tons of games because he's depicted like the big inflatable Trump baby. So those characters are always going to be in there. For Biden isn't seen as a clown or a joke. Biden is seen as actually a respectable individual that people can actually relate to. He's seen as somebody that you want to talk to and you have an opportunity to relate with. It's hard to pull that off in a video game. I mean,
but Ankit is talking about screen time.
I mean, but
screen time influences people. They're copycats. The kids don't know any different. When they see so much Trump and no Biden, they're going to go and vote Trump when they're 18.
Yes, he has a fan base, and there's nothing. I mean, there's not really much you can do about that, because how are you going to depict Biden in the video game? How are you? I have
a theory. I have an idea because I just popped
Because if you see, it's like how many. If he is a respected individual, because you're not going to see Obama President Obama is not in a ton of video games. Neither was Clinton.
Right, but it's time that we give screen time to Biden if it's going to change the minds of a lot of people.
But that's not changing the mind. Because if you depict him as a clown and a character that you're attacking the whole time, that's not making me a person that wants to vote for him.
But they don't show him as negative in all the games. They let him come out as a figurehead, and that figurehead gets mind blasted into these kids' minds. They don't know how to filter that out.
But again, we have to. The only way, because it goes back to you can throw a character in a game, but that's not really what's changing the minds. You can give the same equal screen time. That's not what's going to change the minds. You have to educate the individual on those people or on those individuals in that game. From having Trump in the video game isn't it? Again, he's seen as a clown. He rode in on a wave of white nationalism, white supremacy, and all the white angst that is out there. That's the wave he rode in on. It's not the fact that he rode in because he was this pop culture mentality. He had a fan base from that, but not to the extent that would win a political election. The reason he won is because of the fact he rode in on that white angst and that white anger that people felt that, these Hispanic individuals are coming into our country and taking our jobs. Those individuals on SNAP programs are taking my tax dollars, which I can make more money and be in a bigger house. All lies and all angst that was built up in our society and that's been there. It's not the fact that he's on TV. It was the fact that he wrote in, he found the 2016 and trying to push again on the 2020 version of the Southern strategy. That's what that is.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. Great point, Jacoby and everything. One thing I was just curious, I don't know the answer to this, and sometimes I ask questions I don't know the answers to. But in terms of video games and things of that nature, it comes back to something that Jeff was talking about. A lot of times the TVs will try to give both sides time, and I don't know if there's any form of advertising that exists on those video games. And if so, do you personally think that that's a way that both sides could be addressed, that you might give some side on video games ads, if there are such a thing, to both sides of the political spectrum? So I don't know if that exists here in the US or globally, or could it exist?
So there are ads that happen. There is that political discourse. For example, I told you guys that Fortnite does a phenomenal job of it. They're tied up in their issue right now with the whole free Fortnite, because they're going into a battle with both Apple and Google. But again, there is that time there, and companies are beginning to take more advantage of using video games to try and get across a political message. But we as a society, the problem that we have in our society is the fact that we try and do this whole both sides thing. It is a true false equivalence. Having somebody as a white nationalist telling me that I'm a bad person, that's not a two sides thing.
Right.
Having a group of individuals marching, yelling blood and soil in Charlottesville and actually killing an individual, it's not a both sides have good people. No, you cannot compare. Don't get me wrong. People get mad at, for example, Antifa. It stands for anti-fascism. They're not truly a violent organization. Yes, they go out and cause destruction and this and everything. I'm not a fan of that destruction. But to try and equate them with neo-Nazis and Klans members, that's not a two sides thing. So we have to get out of creating this false equivalence and saying that, oh, both sides need the opportunity to speak. For example, in this GOP convention that's going on, for the most part, you have people who are sitting up there lying repeatedly, saying untruths. Pence last night was trying to defend the guy who shot three people, killing one of them. How do you defend that? But that's what he did. It's not a both sides issue. So in terms of video games giving both sides the opportunity, no, we need to start doing critical thinking and allowing what would move our society down the road in a positive manner, the spotlight. And right now, I mean, yes, the Democrat Party is has a platform that is very positive, talking about everybody's welcome under this tent, while the Republican Party in their convention is saying, well, you know, black people are going to move in your neighborhood, and that's going to tear your neighborhood up. Again, both sides, we cannot say that false equivalence. We always have to focus on we have to critically think what helps our society that is struggling right now.
And we also have to think in terms of the actual companies making the games. So they want to put content in the games that they think that the people playing the games can relate to. So as a result, if there are individuals that they could only learn about by being politically engaged, for instance, they would have to take it upon themselves to really know much about Biden. It would almost it could almost make it more difficult for their own game to be relatable, almost from a statistical perspective, if they were to speak on people that aren't just in the public sphere. So as far as I can tell, I think the president will always have more presence in the games than, for instance, whenever an election comes around, who the primary competitor might be at the time. I think that it might even be overstepping, or some people might feel a bit uncomfortable about trying to begin, I guess you could say, narrating elections in video games. Not to mention that by the time it would take to create a video game, I'm sure the election would have already changed so much.
Yeah, I mean, that's very true. That is very true. It's just...
Yeah, so I don't think it's fair to say that that Trump is being disproportionately represented. It could just be that it's based on the requirements in order for the games to be understandable to the players. So it could still be good for either way, I think.
So Julian, what I wanted to say is that basically, suppose if a Democratic Party knows that there's an election coming in 2020 November, why can't they also focus on a community which is bigger than the gaming community, or which is bigger than any other community, and start working on those games which gives an influence to people that Democratic Party can also have a lot of candidates, and they can see. My idea is to use games to improvise and influence a lot of people, and make sure that they can message to them what we can do as a party and how we can change the America, because right now it's all about speech, and then you know that, I mean, all medias are paid media. You can pay, you can do your PR at any point of time. And the problem is screen time. In India, Trump is getting like 99% of screen time as compared to Biden and Harris. So that means everyone is influenced by Trump. No one knows, in fact, who is standing against Trump, because no one talks about that. Either it's Trump or you are not with Trump. That's about it. So either Trump will win or Trump will lose. It's not about Biden will win. So my idea is to that, because gaming industry is one of the biggest in the world right now, why can't we use it in a much more proper and appropriate manner? Because right now we already on the election time, but if we start like a year ago, we can definitely create some kind of influence within the industry, and that could be also a way to take a lot of feedback from the public and from the gamers, what they want and what they want. Because I still remember when Trump won the election in 2016, there was a case study released in India which says that they have done an AI policing, and they have done a lot of back-end research and reverse things, that what American wants to listen, and Trump was delivering the speech according to those requirements, and that's why people like Trump at that point of time. And now after 4 years, things have been changed. I mean, people want the change, and no one wants to. No one wants to vote for red. I mean, everyone's looking for blue. But when I spoke to a lot of people in America, they told me that small businesses might be having a tough time, but businesses with a medium scale and businesses which are pro-American, they are okay with that. They are happy with what's happening, because they think that business has flourished since Trump happened. It might be an economy change, or it might be, I don't know, it might be a curve change, but that's what the perception is. And the perception is between Indian and non-Indian as well. So I don't know, I mean, what's happening, but that is what I figured out, and after talking to a lot of people. So yes, Ridovi.
So I mean, I completely agree about adding some more stuff into video games, and hence the reason you have, again, the Democrat Party has done a great job of utilizing Fortnite. I mean, they have put people on Fortnite. They have done great discussions and everything. I figured out a way to potentially share the screen on it, so I can. I'm waiting just for it to load up on the computer right now. But yeah, they've used Fortnite as a discussion platform where it's just you come, you sit, you listen, and you talk. So there are other ways to get in there. I just don't think that just throwing a character in there does anything. It doesn't push the conversation forward. It doesn't. I mean, in these games, if you see a clown character or a character that you really find disturbing that's depicted that way, and then you find out, oh well, this is Trump. Well, that doesn't make me want to vote for him, and I don't think it grabs kids to vote for him. They know his name, but they think he's evil. So
I just have to make one more point. Jim, you mentioned that a lot of people have not watched RNC after day one, and I think the numbers are in millions. But do we have a number that how many people are following NBA playoffs and conferences and all those stuff? Because those are consistent followers. Either it's NBA or it's gamers or it's anything else just compared to politics. So that means these people are cult followers of what they do, but they are not cult followers of politics. So if we do some kind of influencing on different domains and make people understand that how we can empower them, I think that we can definitely change it out. And I still don't understand, because in India, when we talk about elections, election means 100% election 24/7. That's what happens in India. Everywhere you go, it's all about elections, discussion in different forms. Maybe celebrities will be part of it, sportsmen, medical stuff. Everyone will talk about elections. So that's we are in the process of choosing someone. But in US, I don't see that everyone is talking about elections. They are concerned about their political differences and all those stuff. But it's just about the media thing, and then on the road, I don't know if people are that much amount of serious about their voting rights.
Yeah, good point. You got some interesting things you're just saying about that, because I do know that here in the U.S., sometimes we get into the election season, and the election season is when we start paying attention, as opposed to it being all the time, even though the election season starts about 2 years into the term or even 3 years into the term. So it really becomes like a long season, but there is a break there. But that being said, I also think that I noticed Jacoby might have both cameras involved, so we might actually get to a live stream moment. Is that what I'm seeing going on?
Well, having to work out another issue, so I just found out.
Okay.
Work. But I don't know. I'm gonna try and pull up the link again, see if this will do it.
Welcome to live TV, folks.
Yeah.
Okay.
In response to what you're saying, the impression that I get whenever it comes to most Americans and how they feel about the election is similar to how I imagine they feel about a common sporting event. I get the impression that it's almost like just a competition or a sport in certain senses. And maybe that's part of the reason why we have these just like strange representatives that aren't really truly relatable from either side. It could just be a kind of game as perceived by the people.
So,
well, Julian,
if I'm hearing you correctly,
Julian, I don't watch hockey during the regular season very often at all. Maybe I'll go to a game if somebody has a free ticket for me. But I always watch the hockey playoffs because that's where it's exciting. So it's sort of like I don't pay. Yeah.
Exactly.
So
and that's actually where I was going as well. So thank you, Jim. You were actually making the same point. I was getting ready to go and say that oftentimes there are folks that don't follow the games until you get to the playoffs. Like I will follow NBA, I follow NFL. I have my favorite teams, but I really am committed to them when it becomes more of a skin in the game kind of part, which is definitely when we get to the finals and you got a favorite team that you want to win or somebody that you're rooting for. So I definitely would agree with that. Now, you do have, and this can come back to a gaming but not video game conversation, folks that have the skin in the game the rest of the season because they do fantasy football, because I'm a fantasy football person. So then in that sense, my skin is in the game all year long. So I wanted the players to do well so that my team does well on the fantasy football.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah. There's no question about that. But I did want to get back to Jacoby's point about the false dichotomy, because the media really had to go through this. They had a learning experience in television and in print, where they thought to be fair and balanced, they had to equally give space or airtime to both sides of these issues. And the learning curve went to, wait a minute, what we really got to do is correct misstatements of fact. And so to be balanced in our news coverage, we have to report the accuracies and we have to report the inaccuracies. And so they have grown in my lifetime, actually over the last 10 years. They have grown from giving equal amounts of airtime to trying to distinguish what's true and what's false. So this is an important thing. So I don't see the point of giving equal airtime as saying being an equal statement to saying fair and balanced.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I can definitely see that and everything. Just hope he's working on that and everything. But I did have a character that I think could work. It's a cartoon character. It's not necessarily a gaming character, but I'm sure that this character appears in games as well. So I'm going to toss it to Julian while they're working on getting the live stream going. But I'm thinking that personally, for Biden, he could be the character Foghorn Leghorn. So that's just my character for Biden, because he definitely, if you remember that cartoon character, he was intelligent, was smart, he definitely had some wisdom, but he was also a little bit, had some views that were kind of cool as well. So that's who I would put in the cartoon world for Biden. So what do you think, Julian? Do you think that Biden would be a good Foghorn Leghorn?
I don't know.
Foghorn Leghorn. To be honest, I mean, again, that was a bit before my time whenever the show was extremely prevalent. I can only remember a few episodes, but I get the impression that he was a bit more charismatic than Biden might be. But, that's just based on the little amount.
He was a clown. He was a clown. So I think Trump might be a better suited for that.
Okay. Yeah, but I was actually going, Jim, I was going for the balance of like the charismatic, smart part of Foghorn Leghorn, because he was kind of charismatic and smart. So that's the aspect of him that I was going for.
Okay,
gotcha. But they always made fun of him. Every show, he was always the butt of a joke.
Yeah.
What about Elmer Fudd?
He was I thought of Fudd as well.
Yeah. Wascally Wabbit.
Yeah, the Rascally Rabbit. So while Ankit and Jacoby are trying to get us to live stream, we're trying to think of a cartoon character or a gaming character that could go for Biden, since we don't have one for him right now because Trump is dominating the images.
Well, he could be Felix the Cat.
Ah, Felix the Cat. I could see that.
He could be Felix the cat, not Mighty Mouse, but Felix the cat, and then he could open up his little bag, and Kamala can come out of the bag.
I like that.
Kamala will come out of the bag.
I was thinking Rocky and Bullwinkle. He might be a better Rocky.
I can stream a game which is right now live. I think in the meantime, Jitobi and me can pick it up. So, Jitobi, you need to comment on the game which I'm playing because I'm not aware about that game. Right here.
Oh, there we go.
That's Valorant.
I recognize that guy.
So, Jitobi, what is this game that we're watching?
That game is by Riot Games. It just came out just recently. It was one of the top games that was watched. It's a free game. It's called Valorant. It is it's a mix between Counter-Strike Go, which is one of the classic esports video games, been around for a little while, and kind of an Overwatch-esque. But yeah, Riot Games made this. It's a team-based game. As you can see, you got four per team on this one. You can have up to 5 per team. Once you die, but it's teamwork and very strategic about the way it's played. I think it's pretty small. It's very action.
And where is it set at? Is it set in the future? Is it set in the current time? Where is the setting at?
It's set in the future, per se.
Okay. So, it looks like we got your PC up, so that's a good thing.
That's already making me nervous. So
say, what's already making you nervous?
I'm on the spectrum, and that's too stimulating for me.
That's the way of the world. It is. I mean, that's the gaming industry now.
Yeah.
So, for example, with Fortnite, they just did an update. That's what
looked like Iron Man. That's Ankit. Ankit's in the game.
Yep. This is how popular Fortnite is. Fortnite you have tons of companies that drop in characters. Marvel, the new season of Fortnite just dropped late last night into today. And they've added all of these Marvel characters. You've got your map challenges, you've got your comic books. But
very cool.
I agree with Jim. I think that's Ankit standing up there, kind of like moving his head and kind of like muscular and everything like that. So I think that's Ankit right there in the lead role and everything. The wizard kind of guy in the back, I'm thinking that's actually Nick, and sitting down is Kim Calhoun. So I think that we got the IBM TV family in the game.
I don't want to meet the lady with the Warhammer.
So that means you are proposing us that this is a future IBM TV studio?
Oh, that'll be great. We'll be playing video games on that desk. That'll be awesome.
Yeah,
exactly.
It'd be worse than Civ 6 for me.
Ooh, I can bring up Civ 6. I got it on here.
No, please. Mercy.
So the big thing about Fortnite, and people really, I guess, we miss the boat if you're not in the video game world and understanding that there is so much behind Fortnite itself. It's like chess. It's like any other strategic game that's out there. There's a building component the game itself, again, originally started where it was a bland story. It did not have really any interest from anybody because it was just a boring, bland story. And so what they did when they dropped in this whole battle royale setup, it took off and exploded and people loved it. The battle royale setup, of course, is last man standing. There's a building component to the whole last man standing. The building component is where the huge strategy comes into play. They've built off of that, and Fortnite or Epic has done a good job at trying to keep people interested. They're leaning back towards more of the casual player now by adding in different scenes. Each season, they'll add in different aspects of the game. Last season, they had this whole water area where you were able to swim a lot more, and you had to figure out ways to work on the island to build around not only the island, but also watch out now for sharks and these guys called marauders and henchmen that would chase you in different areas. So instead of getting trapped out there and it's only 100 actual people, they added in extra characters where it made it more like a traditional video game where you had different challenges to go in. And that made it pretty fun for a lot of different people. But they've also added in, throughout the years, this whole creative section, where if you go in the whole creative section, the whole point of it is so you can practice building. Also, they've got setups where people have built different setups that you can just go and play. You can go ride the waves if you wanted to. You can, they're just a whole plethora of things. And that's what keeps people coming back, is because there's so much building. There's so much.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. So my younger brother got me into Fortnite, and at first I was kind of on the fence about it, but I thought, hey, why not? It's cross-platform. I'll be able to talk to my little brother whenever I come back to Canada. But what really got me about the game, like you're describing, was the creativity that they put into putting certain mechanics together. For instance, at one point in time, so they'll cycle through different in-game weapons and objects and tools and things. So at one point you were able to use balloons, and with balloons, you could jump higher and things like that. And then at that same time, they also had an ATV with a rocket on the back. And I realized, like, someone get on the back of this thing and equip all their balloons, and then I can ride around on the ATV as the driver and use the rocket. And so then basically we had this little makeshift, rocket to fly across the entire map. And it was so fun. And it's just these sorts of little things that are only possible because of that, philosophy of just put these mechanics in there and let people do whatever they want and they will return.
It's that whole freedom, and that's, in all honesty, that's what we yearn for in life. So
Yeah.
video game, that's the same thing that we're going to want, is that freedom, the ability to do whatever. As you see
And
in
Toby, I just had a quick question for you, and I don't know how to phrase this because I don't want to be like quote unquote politically incorrect and everything, but I've run across quite a few. Like I said, I'm seeing this game, and I know that there's a number of these action-oriented games, but a number of these friends of mine that are lady friends, they seem to be very much into these building city kind of games. So is there like some demographic changes that sometimes a certain demographic might be into more type of a game than another? Because like I said, maybe it's just the ones that I'm running into, but definitely a number of ladies that I've run across have been in like these games where they're basically building cities, and they're going in there and they're creating their own city that they want for that day.
And The Sims. Yeah, my girlfriend loves The Sims.
So yes, there's tons and tons and tons of I guess there are data points that I was trying to pull up this one thing. There we go. There are tons of data points that you can have. For example, there's the old data point where it talked about more women play the casual games online, like your Candy Crush and everything else. There are data points, and that was an older data point. There's one now that speaks on. It actually speaks. Ooh, I didn't have my audio on one side. Just noticed that. But yeah, there are other data points that talk about the demographics we discussed before. How more minorities play consoles than minorities, Hispanic individuals. Well, they're minorities as well, but low-income families are going to play console games than your higher, more affluent individuals are going to play PC games. Reason being because PCs are a lot more expensive to maintain. That also bleeds into the fact of the socioeconomic problem that still bleeds into, from our society to video gaming. Because if you look at the esports world, the esports climate, you have more affluent white individuals playing in the esports tournaments coming out of the U.S. than minorities playing in these esports tournaments. Why? Because of the socioeconomics behind it. So yeah, you have tons of data points. And if you go to women, the tough part about women in video gaming, we all know about the keyboard warrior online. We all know how that's
the resiliency I was talking about earlier. You don't have any. There's no other opportunity to expose yourself to these sorts of people.
Yeah, so that keyboard warrior is magnified tenfold. We all know about the construction worker that whistles at a lady, that stereotype that's there, which is true. It happens. But then if you boil it back, because of the anonymity online, it is magnified, making that person that keyboard warrior plus this person who's whistling at women online. So a lot of women do not play with a lot of guys due to this fact. And it's very understandable. It's one of the barriers that I'm trying to knock down, because it is very, for example, if you're on a basketball court and you get beat by a girl, you think, oh man, you're beat by a girl and all the guys are going to pick at you. Again, it goes back to online. If you're beat by a girl in Fortnite, oh, you're going to hear about it and you're going to have to say all these words. That's that toxic environment that's surrounds
That's true in chess too, Jacoby. That's true in chess.
So it's just a battle of trying to get through that toxic environment, not only in Fortnite, but to, as you say, chess, but every video game out there. It's just our patriarchal society is that way. So trying to knock down that barrier is tough. But yes, women in video games, or women in video games, have it tough because of that.
Yeah, video games don't do women justice in terms of how they will clad them. It's one thing I know a lot of people have had that discussion before.
Yeah, I was wondering about that because I had seen that a number of times. But now I'm ready to play a video game. So do we have a game that we can play today, Jacoby? Because like I said, it got me all excited. I have not been into the video game world for a while. So what game are we going to play today as we have several minutes of the show?
So we'll do a fun one, and one that even Jeff may approve of. So the goal
that's a high bar.
Yeah, I know. So I've got a ton that are really interesting, a ton that are puzzles, but we're going to do one that is actually really cute. It's the one that I suggested to Julian last week that I think he would love. This one is, let me see if I can find it. Wilmot's Warehouse. I don't know if you've ever heard of Wilmot's Warehouse, but what Epic does, or what Epic has been doing, is they have been releasing a free video game it's almost loaded up. There it is. Share. So they have been releasing a free video game or two every Thursday. And they have some that are really cool, some that are really interesting. This one I found was really neat because it's a true puzzle game. Actually, Jim, you might like it as well. All it is you are organizing a warehouse. That's it. That's the whole point of the game. I played it once for about 9 minutes and fell in love with it. Because, here, I'll go back so we can do start a new game. Single player, so you can co-op.
Such a great design.
I mean, it's very simplistic. It is straightforward. Let's see if I can turn up the volume.
I like it. It almost seems like it's tongue-in-cheek, trying to reference some more serious parts of the adult world, like some dossiers here.
It is. And it is just all about organization. So you have to do the training. You just move Wilmot all the way over there. Now you got to push a banana. Because remember, you're just stocking shelves. But then it gets to a point where you're having to rush through. Ooh, I was supposed to pick it up.
Looks like Pong. Looks like Pong.
So it isn't. So I can pick up these. Oh, I gotta grab all of these. Oh, and
you missed one. There you go.
Whoa, good job. He's groaning.
Yep.
Wow. That's so great. This is
That's so hard. Get those horseshoes across. There we go.
Keep going. A little more.
A little bit more.
You can't fit all of them in there.
One of them. There we go.
All right.
There you go.
Those. Man, I got to go back and get the other one. Good grief.
So then all you do is just move around, pick it up, drop it off. Whoop.
Got it. Oh,
let go.
There we are.
So now then it tells you, okay, now you got to organize. So now I've got to figure out, okay, winter. Let's put all my winter stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm hooked. You guys will see me in about 24 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a great game.
No,
Well, Jim, we know you're hooked. It's got a hat section. So it's got the hat section that will hook you already automatically.
And then you go back, you got to grab the hats.
Yeah, fezzes count.
But the really cool part is the fact that, again, after you get past the training part, they tell you everything. Okay, welcome to the warehouse. Now you got to organize everything. And then you have only a particular amount of time to organize stuff. And you just got to rush. And that's where the whole...
I remember playing a game with at an airport where you have to park the airplanes and then make sure that the airplanes parked in the right manner. And that was an amazing show, amazing game. I don't remember the name, but where you are an airport controller, traffic controller, and you have to park a lot of planes. And they have a time slot like they will fly like at 10 o'clock, 10:15, 10:20, and all those stuff. And then you have to make sure that you land them properly and park it on a right plan. And different airports have different demographics and different. I think maybe I'm talking about size and all those. We have different variations, I think.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking, because there are a couple of different flight simulators and also air traffic control simulators. There was one. What was the name of it? It was actually kind of interesting. See, now I got to go to this. Now I've got my coworker.
Then you got to work with the coworker. It's not just you, so you got to work with somebody else, a coworker now. Okay, it's almost like job training.
That's what it is. But it's addictive. It is so addictive.
Yeah,
I can see where this would be addictive. So I'm with Julian on that. It could get, and Jim, it could get very addictive. But I'm seeing parts which are like levels. And like I told you earlier, I play Words with Friends when I get motivated. Sometimes I don't get motivated, so I take whole days or whole weeks off. But when I'm motivated, I know that they've got those levels. And it's great getting to the level, but then is this like a level that keeps going? Like, is there an end game to the warehouse, or does the game keep growing and you might be going to 1,000 level at some point?
I think you go into 1,000. Because as you see, there's a delivery phase in the top left corner. Now I've got 2 minutes.
But I think this game looks like a Tetris to me. I mean, it's like an upgraded version of Tetris.
Yeah. So as long as you can stay efficient, you'll be able to. So I guess you want to just last as long as you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then at some point, you'll see this area will open up where the other guys were. But yeah, you just got to organize everything. That's all it is. Leaving that out in the middle of the floor will get me all in trouble.
Okay.
But yeah, this is Wilmot's Warehouse.
Yeah, that's an adorable game.
It's a very adorable game, but what is I guess the question that some gamers will ask is, what's the failure point? So is there a failure point in the game? Is there a way that, because it looks very basic, but is there a failure point that you're actually losing the game?
If I don't organize these shelves in a minute and 45 seconds, and then losing, because what ends up happening is, as you see, that shelf is unorganized. But then this door will open. I have to come over here to the important notice. And then I have to come over here and clock in and clock out. So, yes,
I like it so much. You know what this reminds me of, Jatovi? Did you ever play the game Job Simulator on PlayStation VR?
Yes.
That game is hilarious. So for those who don't know, it's a game that basically you wear the headset and then you engage in what could be considered as real jobs. And they're highly interactive. So there's one setting where you're in an office and you're arranging, paperwork and things like this. And then there's another level where you're working at a gas station and people will just come in and you'll sell them stuff. Then there's a lot of silliness and shenanigans that go into the game. But basically, just the process of having all of these real world processes put into the game itself makes the game so fun. So yeah, it's really simple. You're just doing work, but people will pay money to play it.
So, Julian, question for you about gaming. Do you ever enjoy games that actually, how can I put it, challenge you to underserved to some degree? Because you are an intelligent person. You're a very intelligent person. And I was wondering if sometimes the appeal of games is the fact that you get to tone it down sometimes. Because I think that sometimes we as people like to tone it down. So do you ever enjoy games that are causing you to tone it down? Like you just mentioned a game where I assume one of them is you're a gas clerk. And nothing against gas clerks, but the average gas clerk is not going to be in like the kind of Mensa society, the average one. So I'm just wondering, are there times that you enjoy the games because they get you to tone it down?
Yeah, it is that. So again, you know, we were saying earlier on the previous podcast about how people are more designed to find comfort than they are just to be right about everything. And so seeing this kind of joking sense where we're able to come to terms with the things that we have to do just to survive in society, it brings us a lot of pleasure, especially when it seems like something that we can think of as fun and as silly, but also as, you know, something that'll help us get by. Personally, I really do like these games where I can just almost forget about everything outside of the game and just zero into that. Again, you know, I always go on about Tetris. That's what it's all about for me. Is what I love to do is I love to play audiobooks and play Tetris at the same time, because I find that by letting my active, you know, chatty mind focus on the game of Tetris, I can pay better attention sometimes to the audiobooks instead of always having to, you know, like zip around and things like this. So yeah, I definitely do that. And another thing, there are games like No Man's Sky, which is like this big space game and you can explore all these worlds. I oftentimes like just walking around in these games and just, you know, doing sightseeing in the games. So it all depends. You can even do the toning down in a game that's not calm if you go to the right spot of the map.
Yep, that's what's wondering, because that's what I was thinking you were doing on some of those games, because I've seen folks that seem to have that nature. I know that sometimes I'll even go, like I mentioned, Words with Friends in other games just because I don't want to concentrate on the IBM TV world or some of my other podcasting worlds or some of the things that I'm passionate about, whether that's activism, entertainment, or whatever. And I just want to get off to something that might still exercise the brain, because I do still have to figure out what those words are and everything, but it's not the same part of the brain. So
yeah. It's also spatial. It's not just verbal. You have to think in terms of, oh, well, if I move here, what's the chance that they'll get, you know, like a ×3 word? And you'll think, oh, well, maybe I should just take the small word. That way they don't get that ×3 or something.
Yep. That's very true. It is very much a spatial game. It's very much that strategy kind of stuff, because sometimes you want to get those words that are going to give you those extra points. And it might be, like you said, a smaller word. It might not be the biggest word, but it's where it's placed on the board as to whether you're going to get it or not. Jacoby, coming back to you and everything, one of the things I've been fascinated by is I mentioned the online dinner party, and I said that I was going to come with some games. I came up with the mystery guest, and I did that yesterday, and it will be a regular feature of the online dinner party. But I'm also looking at some charade games, and I looked and there were some platforms for charades that I found on Twitch and other things. So I'm going to try to invite some of those folks or some of our regular game folks to be involved and play charades. It's a very basic game, but I have noticed that even in the video game world, there are some of these platforms that are like about the old games, like charades, that you can literally do them online. So I just wondered if you could talk about that.
Yeah, so the gaming world is wide open, and it's not if you're playing a board game, you're playing a board game, be it chess, Monopoly, checkers, Go, whatever you want to play. You're playing a board game. You need a board. You need pieces to play it. The video game world, you're wide open to whatever you want to do.
Can simulate anything.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a game.
Yeah.
For example, this one, how you're talking about playing charades, and you were talking about one game. I think you said the Who Done It or whatever.
Yeah, basically mystery guess who done it. It's the same thing.
Right. So there's this game here, which is called Tacoma. That's all it is there is an explosion on a space station, and you're trying to figure out what happened. There's no true action. You're just going back through different visual simulations of what went on. And once you see that visual simulation, then you have to try and figure out, okay, why is this spaceship uninhabited? Where is everybody? And it's a whodunit mystery. It's Clue, the board game, live, just in a digital variation set up in space. There's a game that the kids are playing right now. Actually, a lot of kids are playing. It's called Among Us. It's an alien. You take 5 people. One of them is the killer on the spaceship, and you're a bunch of aliens, and you're trying to figure out which person, listening to the clues and seeing what's around, who done it, who's the killer, who's the bad person. It's a very innocent game. Kids are kids from the ages like 10 on up. It's on not only the PC, but it's also on Mac, and even on your phone you can download it. It's a very fun game, extremely popular, huge out there. There's a game called Deceit, extremely violent, but it's another whodunit game where you have one person trying to figure out what everybody else is doing, who's the actual vampire of the group, because that vampire is hidden. So yeah, there's tons of whodunit mysteries and everything else that's out there, because the gaming industry is wide open, and people.
It's very wide open, because one of the things I did, like I said, I just created this mystery game. It's actually a historical figure. They're actually just a figure. They don't have to be historical. But when I created it for the online dinner party, one of the things that I talked about and I joked about with Julian was I had to put it in the context of the time, because the show is 4 to 7, whatever that is, translated to India, whatever. So whoever wins the contest has to win it during the time that I'm doing the contest. Otherwise, you could go back on YouTube and watch it and see who wins. So my question to you, Jacoby, is even in the gaming world, are there these kind of games that have that time constraint that you have to do it within the time that people are watching? Because I do notice, like, whether it's Twitch or whether it's YouTube or whatever the platform is, that they are doing it in the context of a platform. So you could conceivably go back and see what the prize is unless you establish those rules, which is what I have done on the mystery party. But I was just wondering, how do the game industry deal with that in terms of the time limits?
So you have a game called, you have, of course, your sports games where if they're competing against each other and going back and forth, you have a hard timeline that you have to go by. But you have also one of the greatest games that came out dealt with time in a way where if you miss the time, you miss the clue. It was called Shenmue. It was a beautifully an amazing story to sit there and be a part of, because you were that character. And it was, or is it, yeah, Shenmue or Shenmue. They came out with 3 of them. But if you had a watch that you had to look at. They gave you time clues that, okay, well, at 8 o'clock, you better be here because that's where that individual will be. If you miss that time cue, you miss that person and it's gone. So it kept you kind of on a time schedule, and it was fun to actually play because you tried to figure out, do I go eat or do I go try and figure out this clue? If I don't eat, I will slowly lose health. But if I miss this clue, I may not be able to find out what happened. So it was that's how games really kind of keep you engaged by doing that. Going back to Fortnite, they do that because they have, cash cups or different things that will happen in game that you might miss. They have a traveler that happens within the game, and it only happens at a particular area. You may find the traveler in your map, and then he may shoot off. And you either see him up close or you see up in the sky where the explosion as he leaves the map. So you have different things that happen in games which keep you very engaged, which is kind of cool. But like I said, Shenmue was cool because that was one of the best adaptations of that, because it was so.
You know what that reminds me of? You know what that makes me think of are these new games, and I suppose it kind of relies on the mobile platform to make it possible. But there are many games nowadays where the only way that you can stay up and up is just to keep coming back and doing these upkeep processes, which I think is almost the next step following from what you're describing now.
So speaking of something like that, I'll see if I can get out of this. Yeah, your mobile games do that a lot with your Clash of Clans. You had to wait for hours on end to build an arrow or build a catapult because you knew these characters were coming to attack you, but you had to, you know, set up that whole hour wait time and wait for that time to come by, and then you could, okay, utilize that catapult. Same thing with Civilization, you have those time cues too. But one of the cool games, and this is another one, Jeff, you should be able to approve of this one. It is called Cell to Singularity. It's more of a simulation than it is an actual game per se, but the game aspect of it, it's a game. The whole point of the game is you're trying to evolve. You're trying to go through the stages of evolution, and it's very educational. I'm addicted to it because I go back every day to see how much entropy I've collected over time, because that's what you have to do. You have to let the game sit there and you have to collect stuff, and then you can sit there and tap on the computer and it will, you know, rapidly collect it. But no, you let it sit there for a day and then you go back into it, and then you have a huge amount, like right here, welcome back Architect. You were offline for 11 hours and 7 minutes. During that time, 35% was boosted. You've earned 8.41 septillion entropy. Your mind is 29.17. I mean, oh yeah, let me share this.
How high does it go? Does it go all the way up to like octillion and decillion?
No, past octillion. And
oh my gosh.
I just figured Toby was trying to become like you, Julian. I just figured you're trying to have your kind of brain capability. So I just figured he was going to your level.
I mean,
man,
it is so addictive because you want to keep coming back. Oh, I just missed a comment.
Does the game teach you what septillion actually is? Do the players understand how it relates to like sextillion and,
yes,
you know, like, okay, that's great. That's awesome.
So for example, here, let me hit that because I got to collect. Because as you see, now I'm every click I get 69.54 quintillion. But you go through the whole stages. All the stages of evolution. You start way down here. You go from the home star, where it talks about stars are the power of the source of the universe, solar wave pours into, and so on and so forth. Then the creation of planet Earth. Talks about Earth a little bit. The creation of the moon. Then you go to the primordial soup. Then the branches off the primordial soup, which affected the primordial soup, was, you know, of course, volcanoes, the ozone layer, nucleotides, RNA, DNA.
Where are the jellyfish? That's what I want to see.
Oh, the jellyfish are up here. So I got to go.
Oh, gotcha.
There's jellyfish right there. That's connected to sponges.
Yeah, because I saw the sponge. I was like, what? The sponge came before the jellyfish? I was thinking it had to have been close.
Yeah. So, and the crazy part is it had to create tissue. Where is it? You had to have the tissue and everything to create the sponge. Then after creating the tissues to get to the sponge, then you're able to create the jellyfish.
Yeah.
Then you're able to get to the flatworm, then bilateral symmetry, then you create the fish.
Awesome. It looks fascinating, but I think Jeff's got a comment, and I think he also got a jet shortly as well. So, Jeff, what's your comment on the game?
It's too much for my brain, gaming. I bit my teeth on Pong, and when I was a kid, and so, you know, and Ms. Pac-Man, and I felt my addiction being drawn in, and my ability to fix my go-kart, to go swimming, to exercise, to be outside, to breathe, to eat real food, to make that smoothie, to make the garden, to do culture is about gaming, is valid like anything else on the planet. Everything is free and open to, you know, consideration. But I think that we have to reorganize our ethical aspects of exactly every other word you're talking about here is addiction. I'm addicted to this game. I'm addicted to that game. My garage is overflowed. I don't live with a partner right now because I'm stuck in the physical world, and gaming will take me away from progressing in my own dream And so we're doing somebody else's dream when we're in a game. And I'm not the final word. I'm just the proponent or the advocate for the greener games, or the games like you just showed us a game. I don't know about the picking up a jellyfish and what that's going to do. When you float over a jellyfish, it doesn't tell us that there's 4 billion jellyfish in the ocean and they're getting more and that we don't know how to stop them, and the coral reef. You know, I want solution games. I want games that are going to help to address the NBA, you know, decision to stay in the bubble so they can talk to the humans, and they're going to use that as power now. They went to sleep last night and came up with a solution that if they left, they wouldn't have that voice. So in the gaming world, I would like a game or games, a whole trend of games that could be teachers now, because we're doing homeschooling and a lot of kids don't have the attention but for games. And if we do a homeschooling game, like a whole segment of homeschooling games, and I'm just thinking about it right now off the top of my head, that's how creative humans work. We get creative as we think, as we flow. And it is about flow and magic. So if we have a teacher that comes on as a game, and or a school, a gaming school, then the students can come in and learn civics, learn history, learn math, and so on and so forth. They might be boring as a getaway game, or a game to, you know, to have a goal to build a city or to get the treasure or to kill more cops. The bottom line is that I think we should evolve my dream, and I can only speak for me my whole life, and what I think and how I want to approach my teachings, not preachings. And preaching is okay, but if I teach, I would love to have a whole segment of a new segment of the industry for this new homeschooling that we're starting to be involved with right now because of Corona. And I think it'd be brilliant. Bring a teacher in the homeschooling, you know, series, and there's art, there's Photoshop, there's Adobe, you know, and so on and so forth. And of course there probably are some games, but I want it to be like so hip that the kids that are involved with their shoot 'em up games can come to these and to actually go to homeschool, and for us to have them accredited, to have an ethics committee for homeschooling games. I think it's brilliant.
Looks like Jacoby just brought up a game that has to do with schooling and things of that nature. And just really quickly, I know we've got to shortly wrap up and everything, but I just had a great idea. I know that part of Jeff's platform is getting the guys out of prison for nonviolent crimes and everything. Maybe we can get Jacoby to create a game about that, and then that would also bring issue to what Jeff is about. So it could be a marriage made in heaven.
If we did a cannabis game about reform, about prisoners and injustice of rights and all that stuff, we can do the Jim Crow, but we can put it in there ethically and clean and make it educational.
The thing is, all that stuff is out there. All these games that you're talking about, and, you know, from the education games like Adventure Academy and all these things are there. The thing is, we're trying to force down the throats of kids that want to play Fortnite, something that they're not going to play. When, for example, we went and talked about Assassin's Creed, about how that taught about, you know, the ancient history. There's a game that just recently came out called Ghosts of Tsushima, which talks about the Mongolian Empire and how they took over. So there are ways to use the games to educate that are attractive. But
well, the teaching games need to be more cool. The teaching games need to be more cool.
We have to speak on the kids level.
I think what we should plan is that basically when we give assignments to our students, maybe home assignments, or right now all the students are either studying from Zoom or maybe some other platform. If we can create a game and then those games are based on assignments and everyone will, play that game, and based on the game they will finish the assignments. That will also give us a lot of basically, and that's what Jeff said, because during the COVID, we have to change the game industry from what we were earlier to what we are now, because it's all about infrastructure. And right now we are looking for some games which gives you a lot of learning and engagement. And also teachers should also know how to play those games because they are the moderators. So I think we can do a lot of things, and I think it's something which we can work it out. But we should discuss gamification of education system on our next show Thursday at Gamers Den, and I think we can discuss more about it. We all will do some kind of research and homework, and then we'll come out with the point. But I think Jeff was making the same point. So last comment from Jeff, and then we should just take comments, and then we'll wrap up. Yes, Jeff.
Thank you so much. I appreciate, you know, the planet evolving and following the Golden Rule and Gandhi. And I grew up with Ice-T. He's a cop now on TV. He played in my nightclub in 1983, and he had a band called Cop Killer, you know, and he was rock and roll, and he said, "Leave me alone, Jeffrey." And people would die at his concerts, and now he's a cop. So he's not, he's anti what he was. But the point is that we have to evolve. We have to relearn and teach the children that the gaming industry is cool and great, and get some cool teachers in there. You know, get Einstein to come out and teach a class with his freaking hair and bubble up the baking soda.
Yep.
Just to touch on that, the games that, like, if you use your Ice-T example, Ice-T is cool to us. Ice-T is not cool to the kid that's 15 years old right now. So we have to be able to preach on their level and not focus on ours. Right now, Fortnite is cool on their level. We have to be able to, just like Ankin was talking about, we have to be able to tie education to Fortnite. By doing that, that is how we move it forward. By
accountability would be great if there could be a question and answer after every session.
That is all tied to it. So again, we have to educate in their world and not force our world and viewpoint onto them. So if we if we jump in and say, okay, Fortnite, I want you, I will give you a, some V-Bucks so you can play Fortnite if you finish this Khan Academy skill lesson that is that is right in front of you. Or you take
amazing, Jacoby. That's actually an amazing idea.
So you could do those things and educate, okay, well, let's talk about spatial recognition, dealing with what exactly you're building, because that is part of the IQ test that you may be taking later. Those things are the way that we educate. By saying, hey, I want just this game and this game only, you're going to run people away.
Right. Of course, you don't throw anything down anybody's throats, but you evolve it so that we as the builders, we sneak our way into what you're saying by making it palatable and juicy.
So instead of Ice-T, maybe it would be one of the musicians that sometimes will come and do a concert in the Fortnite world or something to that effect. Just like a more up-to-date example.
Well, Ice-T could come on and say, Ice-T could come on and say, I used to be in a band called Cop Killer, and now I'm a cop, and and I've changed my ways. Or you just get somebody from today and you let them go.
You would grab, for an example like that, you would grab somebody who's captured the hearts and minds of kids that are our age and somebody that's their age. Ice-T is something like that, who we think would be cool. Oh, he had this Cop Killer band. That's not going to do anything. That's going to be blown out the wind. If you grab somebody like, take Eminem, who's traveled from generation to generation and is still considered one of the best, he could grab some of the other rappers of this day and still rhyme with them.
That'd be great. It would be great.
Something that would be with them.
And we only come up with these solutions as we talk, and we have this is a council. We're having a gaming council right now and talking about evolving.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about and everything. Yep. I mean, just to come back
Let's
to
go get him.
the
Let's go get Eminem.
Yeah,
So I think
sign
the next week show on Thursday's Gamers Den, and I think it's time to wrap up. Next week we'll discuss about gamification education. I think Jitovi will bring a lot of games to that, and then we all do a lot of research, and then we'll come up with questions and how we can plan those games for our generations and kids to come post-COVID era. So let's go about that. And then it's time to wrap up. So I would thanks everyone for joining us today, and we'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow we have Med Friday with Doctors, followed by Financial Friday by Nick Palaveda, and followed by a couple of more shows. So it's time to wrap today's show. And